Good morning, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scribo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. Today is Monday, May 30th, and the moon is in Gemini today. In fact, today is the new moon in Gemini, and new moons are points of new beginnings. Every month, every month, we have a new moon. In one of the signs of that month, depending on what time of the month the new moon occurs. This new moon is at 10 degrees of Gemini. And so if you have anything at 10 degrees of Gemini, 10 degrees of Pisces, 10 degrees of Sag, 10 degrees of Gemini, Sag, Pisces, Virgo, this new moon is especially potent for you. Gemini is a sign that is associated with our ability to communicate to one another, to learn, to gather information. And so the ruling planet of Gemini is Mercury. At this time, Mercury is retrograde in the latter degrees of Taurus, conjunct the star Caput Algol, which means lose your head. It is considered one of the more malefic, or one of the most, or the most malefic star in the heavens. And so we need to be very aware that this is the type of thing where people may lose their heads. We have to remember that Mars and Jupiter just came off of their conjunction. And so Jupiter expands things, and Mars is action, but it can also be anger, aggression. So this is a really a time where we definitely need to be aware and take care. In the Ukraine, I was just listening last night that they're pummeling the the east of the Ukraine. They think they're going to try to go for Odessa. It looks like they want maybe to close off the Black Sea to the Ukraine and take it over. We'll see if that happens, but this is a very dangerous time, really, in that situation. But for the rest of us, we would like to think it's a safe time, right? But I think it just comes down to us being able to communicate with each other. So start to talk to people. Just be careful, I would say. We're looking at, ta-da, the first peony or peonies. You say peony and I say peonies. Can you see that? Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. But it's a little white pinky peony. And then, of course, all the irises. So the new moon is occurring at 7:31 this morning on the east coast of the U.S. It's about, as I do this, about 7:05, 7:06. So shortly we will have the new moon. It is a wonderful time to plant new seeds. Back to Mercury on Algol and the like. It is trine Pluto, and Pluto is about transformation. It's also about power. But eventually, within a couple of days, 4 days from now, Mercury will turn direct in those latter degrees of Taurus. And then it will move back into Gemini on the 13th of June. And then things are going to lighten up at that time. Until then, things are going to probably feel pretty heavy and slow. But so don't get discouraged if some of your communications or you feel like you're not being heard. You will be heard. Things will happen. It's just going to be in the time frame, perhaps, that the universe wants and not you. But new moons are optimistic, And so if you want to have a new moon ritual, this is a good time to do it with the theme of expanding what you know, expanding your information base, or just opening the lines of communication. And sometimes those lines of communication are easy because we like talking to those people, and sometimes it's more difficult because we don't really like talking to those people. But ultimately, we're going to have to figure out how to relate in a better way here, so might as well. All right, guys. It's been an interesting weekend. Very, very heavy. I mean, it feels very heavy, right? Caput al Gol, Mercury, Pluto, the god of death and rebirth. Saturn square the nodes still. In fact, Saturn is practically standing still at this time because it is going to be turning retrograde on the 4th. And it will continue to square the nodes into the summer. So, but other things will happen and things will start to move a little faster. And I think we're going to start to see some progress. So don't fret about that. Progress will happen. So those little white flowers back there are actually blackberries. I don't like the fact that there's blackberries in my rose garden, but Michael didn't want to take it out until we got blackberries from it. So we'll see how that goes. The roses are starting to bud, although you can see these rose buds coming up. So those are going to be glorious. This is Gretchen's rose, the yellow one. And that one back there, that really healthy looking one, I believe is Boo's rose. That one is red. And then we have a yellow one here that we planted for Michael's mother. This is sort of our memory garden. This is sort of our remembrance garden for those we loved and who are no longer incarnate, but certainly in our hearts. We still have the daisies coming up here. Yeah, it's a beautiful morning here. It's a little muggy, but it's cool. And yesterday was a beautiful day. We had a beautiful, beautiful day here, which was such a blessing. Such a blessing. Oh, and this is starting to bloom a little more too. See a few more flowers opening up. And this is the sun. The sun is coming up over the trees now. So, and have to fill that. Surprised they're not yelling at me. All right, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. For those of you celebrating Memorial Day, we will remember those we have lost in the wars abroad and unfortunately at home. So they may be gone, but they're not gone from our hearts or our memories. And as long as we're open to and be thankful for the sacrifice that they gave, they don't ever really go anywhere. As I've said before, love is eternal. And, I just want to tell you a little story. I have a friend, or had a friend actually, who I was quite close to. She was an elderly woman, funny as all heck, always, sort of willing to go into the direction of the new, the new thing, the new book. She was sort of very optimistic, but she was also somebody who was very, how do I want to say this? She didn't like to be told what to do. Wonder why she was my friend. She was an Aries, and we were very, very close. And I was, I'm pretty vocal when it comes to politics. And, she kind of knew where I stood on stuff. Not that that matters as much. But we would talk about stuff. We would talk about politics. We would talk about what was going on and, what I saw and what I thought. And she would listen. She would listen. And then when in 2020 rolled around and it was time to vote for president, she voted for Trump. And it actually took me a really long time to not be mad at her. Well, which is my own dysfunction, really. I'm sure many of you have had this experience. I mean, it's something I think we've been struggling with. But it took me a while to like, I didn't understand why. Because when I would tell her, when we would talk, she would say things the way, like we had the same views on things. So it was very confusing to me. And then, of course, I realized that she was elderly and she watched Fox News and she had been indoctrinated into being a Trump supporter. And I would say to her, well, he did this, right? And did that, and is doing this, and is doing that. And of course, because she was getting her information just from Fox, they didn't tell her those things. They only told her, the terrible things about, Democrats or whatever it was, whatever foul stuff they were spewing at the time. Anyway, it took me a while to sort of come back. I was able to work through it as I work through my own stuff. And we became close again. But, we just recently lost her this year, beginning of this year. And, I think about her all the time and I miss her so much. And I really do regret that time and